Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Miss Evil Knits on Creativity and the last episode. Finally, we are here. This is episode 10, and the episode where all the pieces that you have gathered, all the knowledge you have gathered, all the inspiration and all the courage should be put together in a final test to knit the Huldra vest. This is my Huldra vest, designed by me, but knitted according to my inspiration. And now you will get the chance to knit your Huldra vest according to your inspiration, your needs. If you are new to this, if you just haven't watched the previous 9 episodes, I recommend that you do it. Otherwise, it's kind of coming in, taking a test in a course that you haven't attended at all. And that will probably raise a lot of questions. And I don't answer questions. So I recommend that you look through the previous episodes to kind of understand what journey we have been going through these last couple of months, and to understand why we are knitting the Huldra vest. And this recipe, the design of the Huldra vest that I'm going to guide you through in this episode, it is not a usual pattern description. It's something else. I will give you a construction and guide you gently while you are knitting it. But mainly, you are creating your own version of it. And there are intentionally parts of the process that you have to make your own decisions, that you have to solve the problems that you encounter. So I will guide you, but you will do the work, because you have the knowledge, you have inspiration, and you have the courage to do this. Huldra. What's that? Huldra is a Nordic word. It's mainly Norwegian, but we also use it in Sweden. And it's a creature, a female creature of the forest or the nature. She have different names. Also, skogsrå is another name for it. And if you hear stories about the skogsrå or Huldra, it's often told that she is a beautiful woman that you can find in the forest, or usually find you in the forest. And really, really, really beautiful. So she attracts men going after her in the forest. And they sometimes get lost. And if they get close to her and she turns around, they discover that her back is ugly. It's the color and shape, it has a hole in it. She sometimes have a tail, and she looks like a murky old tree trunk or log. And it's also told that she is she's tempting them to go into the forest and they will get lost. So it's a lot of negative stories about the Huldra. And I think that this is because it's told by men. And they used the Huldra or skogsrå to blame for their own shortages, that they get attracted by women. But she ignores them, or that they get lost and they have to blame something. And I think it's time to take back the narrative, the story of the Huldra. I want you to help me to tell the story of the Huldra and skogsrå as the protector of the forest, the mountains, the sea, the home, and that she is strong, she is brave, she is kind, she is proud. She's all those things that women are, and that we want to be, we can be, and that we don't let anyone else talk us out of that. So the Huldra vest is a celebration to the real Huldra, the real skogsrå. Not the story about her that has been told before, but the new story, the real, the true story about her. And the inspiration for your Huldra vest should come from your inner Huldra, the one that you are inside or want to be, and how you want to show that in a vest. The Huldra vest, what I am giving you, it is the construction. I am not giving you what texture you should choose, what yarn you should choose, what needles you should choose, and so on. I'm giving you a construction of this vest with pockets and a hood. You decide what yarn. I have been using Nutiden, 2 strands. This is the colorway Mörker. I have been using 5.5 millimeters, but that's me. That's due to how I knit. That's what the yarn required, what I thought made a nice fabric. That's also because of the texture I choose. Because I will not give you any texture pattern or something like that. That you have to come up with on your own. So you have to make most of the choices. I give you the construction. And I will give you this in two parts, 2 videos. In the part 1 that you are watching now, I will give you kind of the background information that you will need to then start with actually casting on your Huldra. And the instruction videos for how to actually knit the Huldra is in part 2. There we start by actually doing the casting on, and it shows you every step until the last bind off. So there is the videos actually how to do it. And in part 1, I will show you more about the inspiration behind my Huldra vest. I will go through in more detail the construction of the Huldra, step by step, show you from the finished garment so you can see. That also makes it easier to understand the steps I show you in part 2. In part 1, I will also show you some of the different techniques that I am using in my Huldra. It has to do with picking up from the I chord, for example, how to make the edges, how to join together some parts. So that is what is in part 1. So 2 parts, 2 different videos, but everything together gives you the guidelines, me holding your hand to knit your own Huldra vest. I want you to find inspiration from your inner Huldra. Who is she? My inner Huldra, she is strong, she's brave, she's kind, and she's proud. She is like an old tree that is growing in the forest, who has a tree crown that reaches up towards the sky, who gives room for birds to nest. The crown is also giving shelter for all those plants that grows at the bottom of the forest. And the tree has bark, and behind the bark there are insects that lives. That's my inner Huldra. That's how I imagine her. She doesn't have to stand in the spotlight. She can stand there, proud. But when she feels like it's enough, she can withdraw into the forest and hide in the dark. So that's my inspiration for my Huldra vest. And that's the thought and the feeling that I want to picture in the vest. I wanted to play a little bit with the story, the common story about the Huldra, who was beautiful in the front, when you saw it from the front. But when she turned around, she looked like an ugly, murky tree trunk. I think that an old, murky tree trunk is not ugly. That's something beautiful. That is definitely a place for insects and other animals to live. They need that kind of environment. And I want to nourish and give space to those who need something else than the most obvious. And I also don't need to be pretty. That's not why I'm here. I want to be acknowledged, and I want people to appreciate me for being strong, brave, kind. So I wanted to make my Huldra vest to kind of have the feeling and the looks of tree bark, both by the color and by the texture. And I chose nutida. I knitted it in 2 strands of nutida. And this colorway is called mörker, darkness. And I also think it's a little bit with that you see me, but it also helps me to just blend in with the background, hide in the dark if I want to do that. And I think I am in that state or the place right now that I don't want to stand out. I want to be able to take a step back. So the color is helping me to kind of let my inspiration come alive and become something that you can actually see and touch. So this was the first choice. And I waited quite long until I made my first, the final prototype of my Huldra, because I didn't really have the right colorway. But now I have it. Mörker. And the texture, I also there went back and forth. A little bit thought, should I just make it very plain for your sake, for you to have this kind of blank canvas. But I felt that, no, I have to do something that I really want, that I need to have. And I have a thing for knits and pearls and the combination of those. So I wanted to use that on my Huldra. So I looked through a book. This one. It doesn't have a cover. And it's also very special to me, this one. Because in some of my early episodes on creativity, I told that I have had a book by Alice Starmore and her fisherman's sweaters. A book that I have knitted quite a lot from and just love, but have lost. I think it's somewhere at home, but I cannot find it. And I didn't think that much about that. But one day, I got a parcel, a package, a letter. And it was this one. Because one of you have actually acknowledged or have found this book in a bookstore, antique bookstore, and thought of me. And it so warms my heart. And yeah, I can't explain how much I appreciated that. That thoughtfulness. Someone who is actually being that kind and thinking about me. And that's why I wanted to use something from this book in my Huldra vest. And it's just so inspirational, this one. And when I'm looking through it, I think back of everything that I have knitted from this one. And it was in my early knitting career that I have more or less started knitting a little bit more difficult patterns. So I have been looking through it, thought a little bit, should I have something like this? Ooh, shiny. Should I have something with cables? Just look at this one. I was actually into making something with cables first. But then I decided that I want to use, here you can see it, this one. A very simple pattern with knits and pearls that I actually have knitted before. If you have watched my the introduction episode of the Vila mittens, I think I wear it there. It's a grey one that I'm sitting, it's winter, and I have. And I really wanted to make it again, to use that pattern again, just to see how much I have grown since I knitted that grey sweater. So this is what I wanted. And I want this to feel like a warm hug from the yarn, from my friend who gave me this one, from all of you that have encouraged me on this journey, and especially a warm hug from my inner Huldra, the one who lives in there and that I cherish so much. I have created this design, the Huldra vest, according to my design principles or my design ideas. And that's all about simplicity, versatility, and personality. The simplicity in this design is that it's kind of knitted in one flow. You cast on, and when you bind off, it's done. You don't have to go back to do the last finishing parts, which I many times just don't do. And that means that I don't finish the project. The versatility in it is that the different construction and the different technique is things that you can use for other projects, or you can modify this design, for example, to add arms to it. And the personality part is that the design itself is quite simple, and that means that you can add your own personality to this design. So you have the ability to shine in it. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to walk you through the different parts of the construction, and I'm going to do it in the way that we are going to knit it, so that you understand kind of the flow, the workflow for this design. And we will start with the most important part of this whole design. So now I'm going to crawl around here on the floor, trying to show you the different parts. And yeah, you see, we have a hood, we have the pockets, but everything starts on the back and with an I-cord. So here you can see an I-cord that runs along your shoulders. And that is the first thing that you do, and that is to make an I-cord. And the first decision you have to make is how long should this I-cord be? And the length of the I-cord, it is how wide your shoulders are. So the length of this I-cord decides the width of the upper part of your vest. So if you want to have a wide vest that maybe just goes down a little bit on your shoulders, then you make this longer. If you want it to be short and end close to your neck, then it makes it a little bit shorter. My recommendation is to make the I-cord, when it's not stretched, it goes from kind of the tip of your shoulder. It's like a little bony tip if you feel your shoulders. So from one tip to another. And that means that when you stretch the I-cord a little bit, it will go to the end of your shoulders, where the arm is sloping down. So that's just my recommendation. And here you have to decide yourself how wide it will be. And if you make or realize that you made the wrong decision, that it's either too long or too short, you can rescue it along the way by doing some increases, decreases, and especially when it comes to the armholes. So you can rescue, and that's also part of the design. So the I-cord is made. I have made it over 4 stitches. And when you have your I-cord, you will pick up stitches for the back piece. So you pick up stitches along the I-cord, and then you start knitting the back piece. And what you will do then is to establish these, as I call, the edge stitches. And it's the stitches that you have around the arm holes, the openings for the arm. And that is over 6 stitches. And it's knitted by slipping the purls and knitting the knits. So it's like knit, slip 1 with the yarn in front, knit 1, slip 1 with the yarn in front. You actually see 3 stitches here, but it is 6. And then you do the same thing on the other side. And by slipping, it makes the fabric a little bit more firm and not as elastic as it is on the other fabric. And it means that the armholes will keep a little bit tighter and not kind of flare out, because that is how I want it to be. And then you have to decide your own texture or how the pattern of your back of your Huldra vest should look like, and then knit according to that. And this is nothing that I provide you with. This is your decision. And you will knit until you are almost down to the, as long as your armholes, you want the armholes to be. And then you will do some increases, add a few stitches. So you make a nice kind of curve when it goes under the arm. And here is where you can do, when you can adapt it, depending on how wide it is. I recommend that you at least increase with 3 stitches on each side. That means that it will compensate for these 6 stitches that will join under here. But you have to try it on to see how many increases do you actually have to make. And if you have had a narrow start, you will probably have to increase more and probably start earlier. And when you're done these increases on every side, you will just leave those stitches and start with the front of your Huldra instead. And we turn away that one. See if we can see. And here you see the I-cord. And now we will pick up stitches for the front pieces. And we will pick up for the both, because now we are having 2 separate front pieces at the beginning. So I will show you one. And here we have the I-cord, and I will pick up stitches for the front. And I will pick up a third of the total amount of the 6 stitches. So 1/3 here, leave 1/3, and pick up 1/3. And the first thing, before I establish the texture pattern, it is that we will do some short rows. And you can see here that is in just stockinette stitches that I have been making short rows. Where I've been knitting, going back, knitting a little bit shorter, going back, and so on. And this is because I want to shape the shoulder so it looks nice next to the neck. And if I don't do this, it will be kind of a bump on your shoulder. So these short rows, I made them in stockinette to be simple, but also easier for me to show you. But you can establish the pattern from the beginning. And then you establish the pattern. You have the 6 stitches, the edge stitches. And I also have 2 stitches here for the neck. Because after a few rounds, you will start to increase for the neckline. So you knit and you increase for the neckline until the total numbers for this piece of your front piece is like half the numbers for the back piece, almost. And I will come back to this in the instruction videos. So knit there. And then I will do exactly the same for the other side. The short rows, knit, do the increases for the neckline. And then when they meet up, I will join and then continue knitting the front piece in the same way as I did with the back piece. And do the increases for the arm, the shaping around the arms. And here you also should try it on, because we are all in different shapes. And that means that maybe you want to have more the number of stitches for the front, because to compensate for a larger bust, or you want to have less, or something else. So this is totally up to you to modify it depending on the shape of your body. And when we have the same length, or almost the same length, so we should join the front and back together. We will make that in, I think, quite sophisticated way, but we're actually joining the front and the back, and then continue knitting in the round. So we are not adding stitches under the arm as in when you make a sweater. We are making this overlapping construction. And then we will knit in the round and down until we want to start the pocket. And as you see for my design here, I have started the pocket quite low, but you can decide to start the pocket a little bit higher up and have a little bit different angle. But I have started it about a few centimeters above my belly button. But as I said, this is totally up to you where you want to start your pocket. It can look nice if you have it higher up, or you can have it, but I don't think you can have it much lower than mine. And what you're going to do here, it is that you're going to take the center stitches and knit them and knit the pocket. So you knit the pocket first, down, and do increases all the way until you have the bottom length of your pocket. It is the same as the front piece. And I also here have the edge stitches. And since they are a little bit tighter, it means that it will hold the pocket together a little bit. And after that is done, I will pick up stitches from behind and then continue knitting in the round until the main piece is as long as the pocket. And then I will join the pocket stitches with the stitches for the main body, and then make the lower hem of my Huldra vest. And I have just made a simple garter hem, but you can choose to make any kind of hem that you like, if you like to have a split hem, for example. And you can also knit this Huldra vest without the pocket if you don't want to have that one. The pocket is created to be kind of just one pocket, like a kangaroo pocket in the front. What I have done is that I have crocheted afterwards. I crocheted like a line here to divide it. And you can see here on the back, you can kind of see that I have crocheted. You can just make a seam here as well, to divide it into two pockets. And that is also to keep the pocket a little bit tighter towards the vest and not kind of just bulge out if I put something in it. But that's something that you are volunteered to do. Otherwise, these pockets are very nice to just warm your hands. And that's my purpose with having the pockets. So when you are done, when you have attached the pocket and then made the hem, the lower part of your Huldra vest is done. And then we move up again and start with the hood. And that is also voluntary if you want to have a hood. I think it's very cozy to have a hood that both cover up your neck, warm your neck, and it's something that you can put on your head to warm it and a little bit hide away, get a little bit more silence. So what we're going to do here is that we will pick up stitches along these neck edge stitches. And if you see here, I have made also overlapping here. And that means that I have picked up stitches. Here we have the center line. So I've started to pick up stitches a little bit before that one, and then picked up stitches in a round. And then I end here with picking up from the I-cord and around and around, and continue picking up a few more stitches past the center line in that way. And then I have just knitted back and forth, establishing the edge stitches. So knitting the hood back and forth. And it can be a little bit tricky in the beginning since you have this overlapping, but you will manage that one as well. So back and forth until the hood has the length of almost on top of your head. What you should do here, along with your knitting, it is also try it on. Because depending on how many stitches you picked up, that decides how large your hood will become. And if you want to have a larger hood, then you will do some increases along this edge stitches. And if you want to have it smaller, then you do some decreases here. So that way you can shape and decide the size of your hood. And as you see, I haven't done any increases or decreases because I was happy with the size. But when it's long enough to cover my head, I will start making the shape the head. I don't know if you can see it properly, but to make it a hood, I need to have this kind of shape it around my head. And what I'm actually doing is to knit two together, knitting the front, the head piece back and forth, and knitting two together. And that will shape the hood. And if you have knitted my Kura sock and the Kura skymning heel, the flap and gusset heel, then you will recognize this technique. And when I have knitted back and forth the whole way, and I'm here at the edge stitches, we will then start knitting the edge stitches in that direction and knitting it together with the front. And when I'm here, I will just in a simple way graft the stitches from this part of the hood and this part of the hood. And when that is done, the Huldra vest is finished. So from casting on the I-cord and finish the hood, it's kind of one workflow. Yes, you have to go from the pocket and up, picking up stitches here. That's an extra moment of the construction. But otherwise, it's nothing that you have to go back and modify or finish when you are done with the hood. So this is the construction of my Huldra vest.